Hey everyone, Britta Albert here. If this is your first time here, I'm a spiritual life coach. My goal for this channel is to help you overcome the obstacles that are standing in the way of you living your best and most authentic life. Today's video, I want to do something a little bit different. I know I've shared personal stories in the past, but this is something that I've never really shared with you guys, at least this forthcoming. The reason is because I don't know what it is. And if you guys have heard of this, or you know what it's called, or you know where to find research on it, I have been looking for years, and I have no idea what this is. So, a couple years ago, I found that there's something that I can do, and honestly, I've been doing it for a long, long time. I just didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know how to control it. And essentially, it's not astral projection, and it's not remote viewing. And just so that you're aware, the difference between astral projection and remote viewing is remote viewing very similar to astral projection, but almost like the show Stranger Things, where 11 is in this place, it's not quite the upside down, but she's able to kind of spy on people. Our military has a lot of research that they've done on this. There's things that are dedicated specifically just to remote viewing. So remote viewing is you can literally just be kind of like a fly on the wall in an environment. Astral projection is where you leave your physical body and you can turn around and you can see that your physical body is on the bed or in a chair or on a couch or something. And a lot of times when people astral project the first time, they think that they died. Sometimes you can astral project from a lucid dream as well. And so you actually can explore the cosmos, you can go different places, you can stay on Earth, you can go in the oceans, you can go all over the place in the astral realm, and you're more like a ghost, but you can interact with the environment versus remote viewing as you're just seeing things and you're getting that information. Astral projection is like you're actually there, and sometimes you can actually manipulate that environment. So what I do is I can connect with people's consciousness. Always with free will, always ask for permission. But what happens, so say for example, if I were to connect with one of my friends, I would be familiar with her body, I would know her energy, so I could use her body as an anchor to go wherever she is, even if I'm unfamiliar with that environment. Now, she may be aware of me in the room making noises or things like that unintentionally, but I can't see her. So I'm not actually there in the room. I'm not positive how she's aware of my presence. The reason I'm saying she is because there's a specific friend that I've done this with a couple of times, and she's kind of helped me practice it to where I can control it intentionally versus before it was unintentional. And so she's been aware of me. She can feel almost like tickling in her solar plexus where I usually anchor in. And she's very aware of my presence in the room, although I cannot see her, I cannot hear her, nothing. But what happens is I go to this, it's almost like imagine a blank room that is a hologram. And I'm tapping into her consciousness, and so from accessing her consciousness, she creates a map or a blueprint of the room that she's in or that she wants me to see, or the building or the house or whatever it is. If she's seen it, consciously or subconsciously, I can go there and I can explore, and I have had other astral entities come over into what I'm doing, and they can enter into this room that is being mapped out by this other person's consciousness. So it's not remote viewing because I'm not just viewing. I can be interactive like astral projection, but it's not astral projection because I'm not actually there. I can't interact and see other people. Like if there was a room full of people, for example, when my grandmother was passing away, I visited her in the retirement home that she was in, and I'd never been to that wing where they keep people who are at end of life. And I knew that the room was full of people in my family and family friends, but I couldn't see any of them. as if they didn't exist. But I knew there was like a thin veil between that reality and where I was. But even though my grandmother was not conscious, I was able to see her room how it was because subconsciously she had seen the room. So it's bizarre, and it's exciting, and it's fun, and now that I understand what it is, it's not scary. It used to be really scary because, again, I didn't know what I was experiencing. I didn't know if I was really somewhere. I didn't know, of course, way back, I thought I was losing my mind. Didn't want to talk about it, or I just didn't know how to explain certain situations or things that I was experiencing, and they really scared me. But now it's more fun because I can control it, and that means that if something enters, I can ask for protection and I can kick it out. And I'll give you another example. When my grandmother was passing away, she had dementia. What I was doing, my grandmother was laying on the bed in kind of a fetal position almost. And she wasn't really acknowledging me, but I knew she was aware of my presence. And so I projected all these memories. If you could imagine like a transparent projector across the room, like a screen in some of those sci-fi movies or shows. And what I was doing is I was telling her, I wasn't speaking, but I was just showing her some of my favorite memories as a child. And one particular memory, my grandmother used to have a garden. And we would love when the garden was ready, because then as kids we were just running through the little aisles and we would pick peas right off the vines, or we'd pick blackberries and eat them, or cherry tomatoes, or different things like that. And so I love those vegetables because it reminds me of summer at my grandmother's house, running through her garden, just kind of helping ourselves as kids. And as I was showing her those really cherished memories from that time in my life, all of a sudden there was a entity that came in my face. And before I did any of this, I asked for protection. I called in Archangel Michael. I called in ancestors. I called in God, Source, Spirit, whatever you want to call it. And if ancestors don't resonate with you, you could say angels or guides or whatever. But I have a family of light that I know supports me, that I can ask for additional assistance. And so I asked them essentially to help me with my grandmother so that we could help her cross over and help her do that peacefully with as little discomfort as possible. And the intention was to take away any fear that she had. So I had already asked for protection. I'd already stated the intention that there will be no negative energies or entities allowed. And of course, where she's at, nursing homes tend to have a lot of negative entities kind of just hanging out because it's a place of suffering. Even in the in the best of homes where they're taking care of people and they really have a loving staff, like, suffering is suffering. They can only do so much for pain. They can give people medications and things like that. But when there's a level of suffering and it's kind of a constant supply of suffering, it can attract what I consider leeches. They're just literally that. They're these entities that just kind of siphon the suffering from other beings. So my intention was to block that because I knew that was already within the environment. So before we even got into it, I had kind of set up the defenses and stated that nothing negative may enter. Only loving, benevolent beings may enter into this space. So I was really confused when, as I was showing my grandmother my memories, this being came right in front of my face. Now, I want you to think of a video game. If you've ever seen a glitch in the video game where it's not the main characters, the avatars that you can move, but just kind of background characters where they're walking and then all of a sudden they come to a wall and they're just walking into the wall. They're not doing anything. And they're just like this, like they're a program, right? They're not sentient. They're not self-aware. They're not going to even interact with your character. They're just walking. that's what they're programmed to do, is walk. Even if they hit a wall, they're just still walking into the wall, and it just looks really funny and weird. That's what this was. Only it was humanoid figure, and it was a program just like in a video game. It was orange in color, and it had no distinguishing features. So like no hair, no face, no clothes, no anatomy, just a humanoid silhouette that was bright orange, and it was in my face, just blocking me. So I could see part of the room around it, but it was blocking me from being able to see my grandmother laying in the bed. So it was like disrupting the connection of me trying to share these memories with her. At the time I didn't understand it, and I may have told this story on this channel already, but this was one of the most profound experiences that I'd had with this box system, and being able to connect and see a room I was not familiar with before. So I asked Archangel Michael just to reaffirm, okay, I know I said no negative energies may enter, but no benign energies may enter either. Because this thing that was getting in my way, it was a program. It was reacting to the memory. It was designed to disrupt. When it comes to things like Alzheimer and dementia, if you go back to some of my chakra videos, there are some things that I don't mention about the crown chakra because, honestly, I don't subscribe to fear-based belief systems, and it is kind of a fear-based thing, but I do also understand it, and this kind of made me have a better grasp for it. But when I was doing research on the chakras, specifically the crown chakra, what it was saying is that when it's closed, that it can cause things like memory loss, dementia, Alzheimer's. And I didn't understand that until I witnessed it. And that's what that program was, that orange humanoid thing. It was not sentient. It wasn't evil. It wasn't a demon. It wasn't like it wasn't even aware of me. It was doing what it was supposed to do. So how do we block ourselves or block our crown chakras? Well, if you're watching this video, I can tell you yours is not blocked because you're already open to new things. And you don't even have to be open to anything spiritually in order for it to be open. It's the ability to constantly learn. It's the desire to constantly learn. It's why so many people like crossword puzzles or Sudoku, or things that keep the mind moving, the mind working. That keeps the crown chakra open. But when we decide, or we're fearful of parts of ourselves, or we don't want to talk about things, we have a lot of truth that has been suppressed within our history, within our past, things that we're not owning that we've done or thought, things that we're ashamed of, or things that we're fearful of. So say, for example, if I was fearful of my gifts like I used to be, and I repressed them like I used to do, and just went the rest of my life without ever giving them the ability to be grown or explored, then I believe I would probably be a high candidate for Alzheimer's or dementia. And it's not to say I won't get it at the end of my life. We don't know enough about it. You can do all kinds of research, but doctors still don't know fully what causes dementia. So this is a theory based upon my experience as to one of the many causes, I'm sure, that could play with causing dementia. So this program, this orange entity, again, I didn't realize it at the time until later what it was, but I was literally looking at the program of dementia. There was something with the memory, that specific memory of when I was little, not me being in her garden, that caused her to react and caused the program to do what it's supposed to do and to block the connection, to disconnect from that memory. I don't think it had anything to do with me being in the garden and having fun as a little kid. I think it had to do with that year. So when I was 4 or so, about around the time, maybe 5, around the time that my parents were getting their divorce or right before, I think that there were some really hurtful things that my grandmother didn't want to remember. So unintentionally, what happened is when I was showing her my memories and I was essentially telling her, thank you. Thank you for being my grandmother. Thank you for loving me. Here are some of my favorite and most fond memories with you. That I unintentionally triggered a memory that she was repressing. And then instinctively, the program came out, blocked it, severed that connection. And then what happened is I clarified with Archangel Michael and I said, nothing can come in here that is negative nor neutral. Only love and light, benevolent beings can be in this space. And then after that, poof, it was gone. And then I resumed showing my grandmother. And then I resumed showing my grandmother my memories and just kind of left the situation open with friends and family there as I checked out of that little box thing that I created, that I co-created with her, I should say, because I connected with her consciousness and she showed me what her room looked like in the nursing home. How do I connect with their consciousness? It's a great question. So I am not actually sure. The best way I can describe it is that I have had a lot of experience connecting with people's energy and really being able to focus on the different energies of different people. The reason for this is because I got the wrong person one time. Weird. When I was first, I guess you guys have seen my story, and if you haven't, I'll put the playlist up above. Check it out so you can see kind of my reawakening. Long story short, I was able to talk to spirits since I was born, and then I repressed it and forgot that it existed, and then had a lot of traumatic stuff happen. And then when I was about 19 or 20, I was able to do it again. And I didn't remember that I knew it before. I thought it was just coming then, and I thought maybe I was a late bloomer or that I was crazy. Anyway, so this is after my reawakening when I thought I was a late bloomer. So as I was trying to grow that gift, and I was scared of it, but I was still very, very curious. I didn't know if I was a medium. I didn't understand that. Labels, hate them, don't even bother. But I had a coworker whose brother passed away, and I wanted to try to help her. So all I had was his first and last name. So I connected with him, and I got a whole lot of information, and I went back to my coworker, and I shared with her the information, and all of it was wrong. All of it. And then I really went into this spiral of self-doubt, and like, is it all in my mind? Did I make that up? And I thought I did. But at the same time, I had so many really profound experiences that could not be explained that it was also hard to just say that it's all in my mind. So I wasn't sure, but I was really discouraged. After a while though, I'll say I realized, but in reality, Spirit showed me that all I had was the name. Then I understood why some mediums ask for an item that belonged to the person so that they could hold it, or what's honestly even better than something that was theirs is if their friend or family member thinks about them. Because whether you realize it or not, you are so familiar with everybody's unique energy signature. It's even more unique than fingerprints. Our unique energy signature is our name, essentially. It's better than a name. So why did the name not work? Well, if you think about it, how many people in this life currently have your name? Of all the people in the world currently, how many people have your name? Now, how many people in the past have had your name as well? Names are not very good because it could be anybody. I mean, there could literally be thousands of people, if not more, millions of people with the same name. So there's no way to pick out that needle from that haystack, right? So we isolate it and we identify by becoming familiar with that person's specific energy signature. So if you are not sure if you can do it, everybody can do it, and I'm going to show you how. You're already doing it, whether you realize it or not. You're already focusing on energy signatures, whether you realize it or not. So I want you to think about people in your life that you love. Now, if you have disruptive relationships with some of the people I'm going to name, just let it in one ear and out the other, and try to pick up on something that does resonate with you. So I want you to think about your mother. And I want you to think about the love that you have for your mother. And I want you to think about your father, the love that you have for your father. And if you have siblings, I want you to think about the female siblings, the sisters. And then I want you to think about your male siblings, your brothers, and the love that you have for them. The love that you have for your sisters feels different than the love that you have for your brothers. The love that you have for your mother feels different than the love that you have for your father. If you have your own child, I want you to think of the love that you have for your child. It feels different. If you have a significant other, I want you to think about the love you have for them. It feels very different from the love that you have for the rest of everybody else. When you think about if you have multiple siblings, and because I just said sisters and brothers, I want you to think about specifically each of their faces and feel how you feel it in your body. Different areas of our body light up. And even if they have hurt you, even if you don't have a relationship with them, there's a part of your body that lights up or doesn't feel good when you think about that person specifically. And that's the unique energy signature that you have with that person. That is how I learned to identify the energy signatures. And I knew after that first time that I got the wrong person how important it was to focus on the energy signature and just completely disregard the name. The name didn't matter. I only use the name to benefit the person, whoever I'm helping. So say if it was a coworker, I'm going to use the name that she gave me because it's going to bring her comfort. But I know that I'm not focused on the name, I'm focused on the energy signature. And when you have a loved one and they're thinking about that person, just thinking about that person and missing them will call them to you. So that is the best way I can describe how I can connect with different consciousness. Doesn't matter if they're living or if they've passed on. Most of my examples are with the living. It is easier with the living than it is with somebody who's passed on for a few reasons. If I'm connecting to a higher self of somebody who's passed on, it can be just as clear as somebody who's living. Think of it like a really solid phone call. You're on your cell phone and you're in good service area and you have a clear connection, you can hear them perfectly. But then if I'm connecting to somebody's astral essence, say that what you would call a ghost is still here on this plane, that's part of the ego, not their higher self. And if it's still here, that's not a good thing. So it's going to be confused, it's going to be angry, it's going to be frustrated, it's going to be scared, it's going to be all these different negative emotions because it's disconnected from itself. And the higher self needs to come in and essentially reabsorb that part of it, but that's for another time. So if I'm talking to a ghost, it's harder. It's like a disconnection. There's like a static. So imagine, again, you're on a phone call and you're in a really bad service area and you're only catching maybe every other syllable of what the other person is saying. That's what it's like when I'm talking to an entity that is stuck here. They were human, they had a human life, but they're not connected with their higher self, and their higher self needs to come back and do some healing and accept that part of them instead of leaving it here for us to deal with. A negative entity is slightly different. It's still going to be much more clear because it knows who it is and it's never been human, or at least not in a long time. What you could call a demon, it's not that simple. But they're liars, so you have to trust your intuition a lot. with that. So anyway, that is the best way I can describe to you how I connect with the consciousness is the same way that you can identify the energy of specific people in your life. I have worked a lot of years to focus on that, and somehow that has turned into that ability. So what I do, I don't just stand here and like, boop, I'm there. I have to lay down. I can do it sitting down too, but I go into a very, very deep meditative state. There could be things going on all around me. There could be an earthquake going on, and I'm not aware of it because I'm in that deep, deep meditative state. And I'm not familiar so much with things like theta, terms like that. I don't know at what level I'm at when I'm in that state. All I know is that when I start to feel like, whether I'm laying down or whether I'm sitting, I start to feel like my body is floating, but the energy is circling around me. So if this is my body and it feels like I'm laying down, like I'm going through a tunnel, and all of the energy and the air is circling around me, and I start to feel really dizzy. Or if you've ever been drunk and you've laid down on the bed and the room is still spinning, it feels very similar to that. So once I'm there, then I know I'm close to connecting with that person, and I just start to think about the person that I'm trying to connect with, and then it's like the space opens up. And it's still different from being here. It's more like being in a dream. So I will have vivid memories of moving around and seeing the space and having all of this stuff, but it's not the same density as when you're awake and you're moving around. So I'm not going to see things necessarily as clearly, but other things I'm going to see more clearly than I would if I was there. I don't know how much sense that makes, but the best way I can tell you is it looks and feels like a dream. That if you have memories of what your dreams are like, that's kind of what the experience is like. So, what is it? I don't know. I've never heard of it before. I've tried to do research on it. I've never heard anybody else talk about it before. I know it's not remote viewing. I know it's not astral projecting. But I don't know what it is. So if you've heard of this, or if you've experienced this, or you know what it is, please tell me in the comments. I would be forever grateful. If for whatever reason you don't want to tell me in the comments, in the description I have my other socials that you can connect me on. I've got my email that you can shoot me an email on if you don't want to put it in the comments. Or also, don't forget, if you've never had a session with me and you would like to have a session, I am a coach, as I said in the beginning. I help people do shadow work. I help people work through things that are holding you back. I help you work through self-doubt. I help you work through all of these things that are getting in the way of you living the life that you crave. And that's what I mean when I say your best and most authentic life. But in the description, there is a link for a free 30-minute call if you've never had a call with me. If you feel led, today is your day. This is your sign. Click that link. Let's have a phone call. It pulls up my calendar. You can pick out a date and time that work for you, and then we'll have a Zoom chat together. If you enjoy this video and you want to see more like it, please consider subscribing, and I do recommend hit the bell notification. I still have some things going on behind the scenes as far as the program that I'm putting together. That'll go on for a few more weeks, well actually probably a couple more months. So that's why I do recommend, if not later, right now is a good time to hit the notification bell, because I do try to get at least one video out per week, but the day is not necessarily consistent. So if you want to know when my videos come out and you want to be notified, then consider hitting that bell. Love you guys. Thank you so much, and thank you in advance for helping me figure out what the heck this is. And I will see you guys next time.